We're going to be talking about Brazil, South America in general, but specifically about Brazil today. A big shout out to Bill from Boston. Bill is an American living in Japan. He has his own English studio in Tokyo where he teaches English face-to-face and online. So Bill and I, we talk over the phone once in a while, and we were talking about the size of South America, more specifically about the size of Brazil. I told Bill that at one time I traveled through the United States. I traveled from New York down to Florida, New York to Miami. Took us 24 hours exactly. It was me and two friends of mine. Each one of us drove for 8 hours. So we left New York. After 8 hours, we switched drivers. Another 8 hours, we switched drivers. We were in Miami in 24 hours. I also took a trip across the U.S. with my family, my wife, my 2 daughters, from Georgia to San Diego. Took us 3 days. We left Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. We spent the first night in Texas. I drove all day, but not at night, of course. I drove from 8 a.m. until around 6 p.m. and then stopped to spend the night here. The second day took us the whole day to cross Texas. So Texas is really long. Took I-20 and I-10. So we spent the night just when we made to New Mexico. We spent the second night here. And on the third day, I drove all the way to San Diego. I arrived in San Diego around 7 p.m., 7 to 8 p.m. So I was telling Bill that I also drove through Brazil. And it takes about 36 hours if you drive non-stop from here, like from Rio until this region. That's where I drove. But it takes longer. If you stop for, sleeping, it would take 2 days just to get from here to here. And I was with an American friend. And I wanted to go to Puma Punku. At that time, I was a big fan of the sci-fi show Ancient Aliens. I call it sci-fi because it's science fiction. And I wanted to go to Puma Punku. So I tried to find out with the people here how long it would take us to get there. And that thought would take us another day of driving. No longer than, 1 night. But they told me that would take us at least 2 days to get to Puma Punku. So I always wonder, something's wrong with this distance here. Just like everybody else, I grew up in the attending public schools, so I got the same distance as everybody else. So I'm used to this distance here, 4,319 kilometers from east to west, 4,304 kilometers from north to south. So I was questioning, something's wrong with this distance here. It was then that Bill sent me a very interesting picture, which is this one. As you see, the bluish-greenish line has a distance of 4,319 kilometers from east to west. But the yellow line, although it seems to be the same size, has a different number, 3,394 kilometers. So that made me think that Brazil is much wider than longer. I remember a video I watched from Immune TBS, which we're going to watch right now, about the size of Australia. So please pay attention on what he has to say here.
I decided to compare the two Australias, the one from the Flat Earth from the Gleason map and the one from the Google Earth map, or the globe, if you will. Starting from the center, we can start by circling the 75-degree line and followed by the 60-degree line. Next comes the 45-degree line, and then the 30-degree line. Notice these are in 15-degree increments. Then we got the 15-degree, which is the Tropic of Cancer. And then comes the equator, which is a 0-degree line. And now we head south. So now we have 15 degrees south, which is the Tropic of Capricorn, and then 30 degrees south, and then 45 degrees south. And then we have the 60 degrees south. Whoa, wait a minute here. What happened to the 75 degrees south? I think I just found our problem. It would appear the flat Earth is not equal in the land masses between the North Pole and the equator and the South Pole. So, what does that mean? Well, what that means is that when somebody decided to create a globe out of the flat Earth, they did not have two equal halves to make into a sphere. So they had to elongate and stretch and do everything else to make it work. Because there's a 15 degree difference or missing of latitude. So in order to make it a perfect sphere or ball, they had to stretch things out. That's why everything looks distorted. And from what I can tell, and then this one was just conjecture on my part, but from what I can tell, it looks like they started from the top, from the North Pole area, and everything got stretched incrementally as it went down, all the way down to the quote-unquote South Pole. Brian Clark, that he supposedly quote-unquote found a flat Earth map from 1920 in the Library of Congress. Wow, shocking. And what do you know? This funky looking little map has the latitude lines all the way out to 90 degrees, when the Gleason map only goes out to a little over 60. So because they need the 90 degrees to be able to make a full circle of the globe. So all these attacks on the map, and they know they have to attack the map. The map is the key. They know that there are lies. We have to expose the lies that they created a ball out of a map that is flat. Because that's what it represents. The Earth is flat. It's not a sphere rotating at thousands of miles an hour. It is a stationary plane. And it operates like a clock. It works like a clock. It even ticks like a clock.
So here, comparing sizes on both on the flat Earth map and on the board projection, you can see on the flat Earth map that Brazil is much wider than would be longer, which makes sense with these numbers here. So what happened then if they stretched down the continents? The same thing happened here. They stretched it down to fit the globe Earth. Now let's take a quick look on Photoshop and see how this can be done. Here I have a projection of both the ball Earth here and the flat Earth map. So what they did, they stretched this down to fit the globe model, and I will show you how they did. This is what they did. They stretched it down to fit their globe agenda. Something like this. I can make a little bit shorter and smaller. They needed to stretch the continents, the countries down to make it fit the ball Earth, to complete the 90 degrees that goes from the equator down to the South Pole. So that's why you see so many discrepancies when you look at, for example, the Kälbito, for example, is one of them, or when you look on the globe. So I try to find a globe that is for educational purpose, because most maps are not for educational purpose. So you see how long, how big South America looks on the globe and everything else, but the flat Earth map has it the way that it's really supposed to be. Brazil is much wider than longer, and it doesn't get all the way down to the 90 degrees. They had to stretch it out to make it fit the globe model. I'm gonna show you exactly what's going on here. When you watch this video, you see that the flat earth map came first with Al-Biruni. He lived between the 973 AD to 1048 AD, was from Persia, and he is credited to have come up with the azimuthal equidistant map, known as the flat earth map. But something happened. In 1492, this guy wrapped the flat earth map around a ball. And you can see in the animation how they stretched it down to fit the 90 degrees they needed from the equator down to the South Pole. So everything got to be stretched down. You can see here Brazil, how it was stretched down to fit the globe model. So everything, all the continents, including North America, was stretched down to fit the globe model. Even Australia. This is exactly what Immune to BS was explaining. Here we have different projections showing South America, and I actually got this image from a geography website demonstrating the different projections where they have South America in totally different shapes. That has a lot of implications, especially when someone is flight planning. And all of these claim to be correct. And here we do have someone who demonstrated how someone can get a flat earth map and transform into a globe. This guy, he picked up a Gleason's map and he went to Blender, a software program, and first he converted into one that looks like Mercator projection or a Gauss-Peters projection. And from there, he went on to create a globe. And as you can see, it looks exactly like the projection on the globe that we see day to day. All he had to do is to stretch down to make it to the 90 degree they needed from the equator down to the South Pole. And he compares here the size, as you may see, completely equal. South America now is completely, the Gleason's map became a ball earth projection. And all the continents are the same. So all you have to do is to wrap the flat earth map around the ball and stretch it all the way down to make a complete circle of a ball. And that's what happened back in the 1492 when the guy decided to make the first globe. Here we have side by side one more time comparing the globe earth projection with the flat earth map. In order to fit the ball earth 90 degrees south from the equator, they had to stretch down the continents to fit the globe model, as we saw the example with the guy transforming the Gleason's map into a ball earth. So this is what happened. That's why these countries look much bigger than they really are. Now, what size is Australia? In most places you see them saying that it's 2,000 miles or about 3,500 or 600 kilometers. But there are other people who have come up with other different numbers. I have found a couple of videos on the internet showing 5,000 mile journey across Australia. He's an American, also in Australia, crossing it by motorcycle, claiming to have gone through 5,000 miles. And there are others who say it's 5,000 kilometers, as we see here.
5,000 kilometres, 5 camels and a whole lot of outback terrain, from Shark Bay in Western Australia to Byron Bay on the east coast.
It's been a 9-month adventure across Australia.
It's very serene out here. I love the serenity.
The man behind the mask is Jacob French. He's trekked more than 5,000 kilometres from Perth to Sydney, walking an average of 10 hours a day.
So some say 5,000 miles, some say 5,000 kilometers, others say it's 3,500 kilometers. I don't know. what I know is there are map makers and cartographers in Brazil that say that the distance on the school books are not correct. So I don't know. There is no way in life that I will find out what's the truth about it. But one thing I can tell is that I think that the flat earth map got it right. The flat earth map is a clock, as we will see Immune to BS explaining here one more time.
Now, everything about this map makes complete sense in our world. I mean, it is a clock. Our world is a clock. We have 24 hours a day, 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of darkness. Not all the time, but you understand what I'm saying. Even the time zones make perfect sense on this map. So this is the representation of the time zones that they give us. Does this make any sense to you? Or does this make more sense? The hours on the clock are the different time zones. Everywhere you look on this map, everything we need to know about the world we live in is right in front of you.